everybody. Welcome back. It must be that time once again. A little time for That Bald Guy. With me, your host, Raji B. The Raj. Also known as That Bald Guy. And now, live from Barton Street Book Studios in downtown Overland Park, sponsored by Undervisor. Higher education staffing made simple. It's time to start the show. That Bald Guy. Well, hey there, TGB crew. Thanks everybody for tuning in to This Bald Guy for our very first initial inaugural kickoff podcast. You know, I gotta say, I'm super excited about this. For the first time, I'm finally able to take all the different things that I've been working on over the course of my life and really put it into one overall project. I've been involved in higher education, I've been involved in theater, I've been involved in leadership and startups and businesses and finance and all these different aspects of life, but I've never found a way to really create a solid through line, that one string that kind of attaches everything, that thread. And so, having said that, I've decided to create This Bald Guy, a podcast. Some of you have seen our What You Thinking Wednesdays that have been popping up recently on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And that's just the beginning. We're going to be doing a whole series of motivational and inspirational dialogues. We're going to be trying to get more of you all involved with everything. And we're going to be bringing to you series and lessons that will hopefully engage and inspire you as you continue on in your pursuits. I know for me, the folks that I'll be bringing on are all people that I've looked up to, people that I've had relationships with and friendships with, and that have taught me an exponential amount in my life. And so I'm excited to have the opportunity to share all that with you. So some of the things that we're going to be touching on with This Bald Guy in our upcoming series and our upcoming podcasts. We'll talk about leadership. That's one of the big things that we'll touch on. We're also going to talk about education. Education has been a big part of my life for the last 10 to 15 years, if not longer than. Very interested in student success, very interested in the success of everybody, which is why leadership is also such an important key piece for us to touch on in all this. Business, we'll have folks come on that we'll interview and we'll talk to about business, finance, cryptocurrencies, and maybe we'll even delve into the world of politics. God bless. If I do that, we just need to make sure that we keep it safe, we keep it clean, and that we remember that everybody's opinion is valued regardless. This is not a show that's dedicated to putting other people down. It's not about hindering others or silencing others. I have my opinions, you have yours. And together we can find a happy medium for discussion. That's what this is all about. So, having said that, we're going to go ahead and we'll jump into our podcast. I'll bring Angela on with us here in just a second. So get ready, and we'll jump into our first interview with Angela Kariotis, Director of Diversity and Inclusion at Brookdale Community College. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with that. And helping them to find success for decades, and has currently found herself excelling as a Director of Diversity and Inclusion at Brookdale Community College. You can find her on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My good friend, Angela Kariotis. Angela, good to see you again.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for extending the circle. Roger, thank you for your fellowship always.
Oh my goodness. I mean, we go way back. So the first person that I thought of when I wanted to get somebody on to talk education, to talk leadership, and talk passions, I mean, I knew that had to be you. So let's kick it off, and let's tell everybody, because I know you, I've known you for 25 years. But let's go back. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and culture. Talk to me a little bit about your culture growing up, because I know that that's been a huge part of your life and everything that you've done.
Yeah, sure. So I identify as a first generation Greek American. My parents were from Greece, and they emigrated to America, to New Jersey in the 60s. And I say that being first generation American is a part of my culture, a hyphenated culture. One foot in what seems like two different worlds. We are a very specific person, navigating, trying to fit in, navigating, trying to hold on to our ancestry, and making all of it distinctly American in that remixing that identity. So part of my culture too is growing up in the East Coast, growing up in New Jersey. I'm from a working class, blue collar family. That is also a culture. We grew up being resourceful, being creative, ingenuity, and also with deep gratitude and a deep sense of commitment to family and laboring. So I am an artist, the audacity of a first generation working class
You should
American.
have been a doctor.
Yeah, I should have been a lawyer, right?
No, that's true.
Be an artist, but even in art making work, all of it. So being an artist is part of my culture too. Homage, writing love letters, giving voice to working class struggle, giving voice to family and creativity and resourcefulness in that kind of art making. So even the idea of making do with what you've got, or creative ingenuity, being inventive, that feeds into how I create my art making. So minimalism and being a writer, an actor, a producer, a marketer, and a facilitator, carrying on different roles and having to be flexible and pliable. So part of that feeds into my aesthetic too. All of it is cultural.
Because I was going to say, I mean, you, when I've seen you perform, and I've read your works and seen your works, which I've seen and read quite a few and plenty of. I mean, there's always that piece of culture that's incorporated into it because of the pride that you take, which is huge. So what are some of those defining moments that really bring out that culture for you, whether it's through your art, whether it's as a child? What's a defining moment for you that really strikes that culture chord?
Yeah, so I think one, being in school, we talk about school, we talk a lot about education, but it's also about relationships that you develop while in school and mentors. You
Mhm.
know, I I can't wait. I try to be a mentor when as I could, but also if anybody is ever questioning, how do I give back, or how do I participate, or how do I support, or how can I make a difference, or anybody who's feeling like, oh, things are so overwhelming, I can't possibly do anything that matters. That's not true. Being a mentor and giving people the knowledge that you've earned, the hard-earned knowledge. A great question for anyone who wants to learn when they're in the company of others is to ask, what do you know that I need to know? That is the only question that you need to ask. If you are able to answer that question for someone, then you are in the role of a mentor. I've had mentors and I've had people who took time and took commitment on me and my art making. So I think the pivotal moment for me was in high school. You know, my teacher who like snuck me a Sandra Cisneros book called Woman Hollering Creek, because she knew I liked to write and sit in a corner, because she knew, I was like really into English class. So she took it upon herself. Noreen Andrews is her name now. I still keep in touch with her on Facebook. She took the time to give me the work of an author who wrote in a narrative and in a poetic style and with cultural idioms and with a freeness. I've never read anything like that before. So it opened up my world, not only to this writer, but how I can be a writer and what kind of storytelling I could tell. And then of course, learning how to write and perform my work. I heard Toni Morrison say, I wrote books that I wanted to read. So I kind of wrote plays or poetry or performances that I wanted to see too. And I wrote work that that my brother would like.
Mhm.
Right? Like so if my brother likes it, then I'm meeting the audience that I want to reach, not people who identify as artists or who
Yeah.
even want to go to, but to give people an opportunity to see themselves in their stories and on stage, and to allow them the opportunity to have a cathartic experience. Like working class folk rarely have the luxury for art making.
Mhm.
Who has the time? Who has the luxury to do something for nothing, for free, or for nothing, or you know, who has the luxury to be creative and to create that kind of output? So I take a great amount of responsibility on everything that I do. So being in college and meeting people and other professionals, running into class, going to the University of Texas and falling into a circle, like you need community, you need people by your side, you need a group of friends. You were one of my group of friends, Roger, when we were on the speech team together at Seton Hall. I would not be doing any of the D&I work that I'm doing. I would not be an artist or an instructor without my time in forensics, along with helping me, putting me through school. It helped me create discipline. It helped me learn craft. It helped me learn how to be part of a team. It helped me learn the power of audience and the responsibility that we have to our audience. So that was absolutely a pivotal moment in my making. And also the people who ran those programs, you know, the people who introduced me to the activity, the coaches
Absolutely.
that worked tirelessly. So I honor that lineage.
Well, that's all, and I mean, I think it's great that you refer to art as being something that's a luxury to be able to do. I mean, because it really is. Art is one of those things that you've got to. I mean, like you said, who has the time to really do all of this and really focus all of everything on art when most of the time it's for free? Like, how does that? And how does that translate? So, I mean, I think that's amazing. Tell us a little bit, like how did you make it work? You had support systems, but you made it work. I mean, you became an artist. Like you were always an artist, but you became a known artist where you were able to travel and you were able to perform, and you were able to take those next steps. So, you know, how did that work for you? And then we'll kind of parlay that over into, you know, how does that bring us to where you are now through all of this?
Yeah, sure. So I learned how to do a lot of different things. I learned how to write my own press releases. I learned how to market my own work. I know how to update my own website. I know how to cold call. I know how to create my submissions. Notice I'm not saying anything about writing a great play.
And I was going to say, so you know, so that's how important is that most artists don't realize, and it's what I wish I had known back when I was an artist, back when I was in musical theater, you know, doing the Broadway stuff and all that. I wish I had known that at the time, that art is also a business. There's a
Art
business
is,
side to
art is also a business, and I also had foresight. So I would plan, like, what do I want to do 5 years, where do I want to be 5 years from now? So I had foresight. I also create my own content, and that's huge. So I'm an artist, but I'm also like a different kind of artist, right? I'm a performance artist. So I made that commitment. I'm not waiting for anyone to cast me. So I'm writing my own work.
it.
I'm securing my own rehearsal space. I'm directing myself. I have been directed by others. I have written solo shows that have been directed by others, but I'm also like investigating other streams of income. I know how to write a grant. I know how to submit a proposal. And I'm always going to make sure that my work is meant for others. So excellence is important to me. So I have a deep respect for my audience and for people, for my work to resonate with people, because I'm an artist, because I have an audience, or because people are going to engage me, and the last thing I'll say is that I am great to work with. And I don't mean that to pat myself like on the back. What I mean to say is flexibility,
Mm.
adaptability, being accommodating, being compassionate, walking into space with a gratitude and asking people, what do you need? We're going to make it work. What can't I have? That's cool. I'm going to adjust to it. And being that kind of person, people are, the thing about artists are, we get rewarded with more work when other people get rewarded with time off. So when you're good at something, that thing will lead to the next gig, or that thing will lead to the next project. And I also learned how to diversify my talent for multiple streams of income. So yes, I'm an artist, and yes, I like to be center, and yes, come see my show, but I also learned how to teach other people the craft. So now I'm earning income by being a teaching artist, or by being leading K through 12 teachers in professional development on integrating art across the curriculum, or being an artist in residence in other spaces. So I can have an honorable living as an artist, some kind of art making, one way or another. And I'm really thankful for being able to do that. So I would recommend to artists, like, how can you take your talent and diversify that to give people, to share your skills and your know-how in different forms?
You have successfully licensed you. You are licensing yourself out to everybody.
Yeah, sure.
That is what you have done as an artist. I think that's amazing. I really do, because so many people don't realize what goes into it. Right. They're like, oh, okay, this person's they write plays all the time. They don't do anything for income. They sit around, they collect off the government. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. There's so many other ways that artists who get it, like yourself, turn into business men and women, and are successful, and are leaders, and are engaging. And that was always one of your qualities as well. And I'll go ahead and I'll make the reference that, when we were in college, performing side by side with you, you kind of reminded me, of this guy back here in the back, number 15, Patrick Mahomes, because what he does is he brings out the best in the people around him. And that's something that you were always very good at doing. You were always very good at bringing out the best in the people around you. And so that's a huge skill, and a huge attribute as well that I'm sure has obviously just worked wonders for you. So we've covered, like, the culture piece. We've covered where it's led you. We've covered what you've been doing, and how it all kind of culminates through the business aspects, and working with other folks, and doing webinars. And you're now the director of diversity and inclusion for Brookdale Community College in New Jersey.
Yes.
How did you end up as the director of diversity? Now, talk to me a little bit about this, because I think it's, number one, I think it's amazing. I think it's a perfect fit for you, especially with your background and your passion to culture. I think that this is just a phenomenal opportunity for Brookdale, for the students of Brookdale, and of course for you yourself to continue to learn and grow. But talk to me a little bit about this position, what you're doing.
Sure. Okay. So we know that the world, we're having a transformative moment right now. We do not yet live in the world that we want to live in, but using a radical imagination, we can work together to co-create a world that is sustainable for all of us, right? One that is true, and one that is just, and one that is toward the trajectory of rightness. So there have been an overabundance of diversity and inclusion and equity positions that all of a sudden, right, started to get created in corporations, in schools, and this position is one of them. I think artists are perfect for these positions. Who's going to come in? How are we going to do this work? Everybody wants to have I do believe that. Everybody wants to do right. Everybody wants to have the hard conversations, but nobody knows how to start. Everybody's super scared to say the wrong thing. We don't want to do the wrong thing. We don't know what to do. We know we want to do something. We don't feel like whatever we can do will ever be enough, and then nobody does anything. I think artists are perfect for positions like this because we're used to putting our hearts on the line. We're used to putting our hearts on the line. We're used to vulnerability. We understand the power of vulnerability. Artists understand the necessity of intimacy of truth telling, of openness, of allowing yourself for feedback. of allowing yourself to give feedback, of creating a culture of care. I think artists, not all artists, because even art making has its own issues, but there is a part of art and art making, right, that is prime for work like this, to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's what we do. And also the idea of here empathy. So when we think about empathy, right, isn't that what artists do? They tell stories to make other people feel. They craft language that'll resonate with others. The idea of a message, artists deliver message, artists put themselves in another person's shoes. The idea of ensemble, you'll know this, right? So forget group, forget team, forget collaboration, forget that language, but an ensemble means everybody matters. Everybody in that ensemble matters, is a piece of the puzzle to tell this story. Artists are great for this work because they can communicate everybody in this company, everybody in this workplace, everybody in this home, everybody, whatever it might be, everybody has a role to play and everybody has an integral part to contributing toward a forward movement. And also the idea of listening. The idea of listening is the artist's work, and the idea of rehearsing. Rehearsing is big for me in DEI work, in diversity and inclusion work. Rehearsing, what do I mean? Like sometimes you have to rehearse how you might act or react in a given moment. So you build that muscle memory and you are prepared. You are ready to respond, to intervene, to disrupt, to interrupt, to get in front of somebody, right? Or get behind. Sometimes
Or get behind,
right? Or beside. So there is a part of rehearsal that is important to this work. So when I'm as director of diversity and inclusion at Brookdale Community College, and we serve all of Monmouth County in New Jersey, I'm the first one in this role. I was very clear that I come to that role as a creative with creativity, that we are making something with each other, but also quite literally, how can we do cross-disciplinary work? How could theater work with criminal justice? Or how could the visual artist work with the psychology department? How can we do this cross-sectoral informing co-curricular collaborations so we're all talking with each other? Like nature survives on the diversity of ecology. That's how nature survives, right? So how can we take that knowledge, that Mother Earth, that indigenous knowledge, and inform it in the way that we work with and for each other? So now we're not in silos. Now, and we're listening to each other the way artists do. So we're getting into the room together. We're practicing with each other. We're practicing conflict. We're looking at conflict as an opportunity. We're telling stories. So now we're vulnerable and we're listening to each other and we're bearing witness, doing this work together. So it's exciting. I'm lucky to be where I am. Everybody is ready. There are always going to be challenges, but that's life. That's the point of it. And I'm thankful for it.
Now, it sounds like, so a lot of what you're talking about, it sounds like it focuses on administration, faculty, things like that, that tier. Let's talk a little bit about the diversity for students, what it is that your position does in terms of the outward beneficial aspects towards the students. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So the idea of radical hospitality. Radical hospitality means going out of your way to make someone feel absolutely welcome. Especially, it recognizes that the person doing the welcoming is in a position of power. And the person being welcomed is often marginalized. So like a radical welcoming or radical hospitality recognizes and addresses those power dynamics. So my job as director of diversity is to work with people that are already doing this work. That is like the key thing. Like you have to be humble going into any space and know you have to do the work to find where this work is already happening and how can I support those efforts. That might be in person power. That might mean in advocating for them. That might mean funding. That might mean getting rid of bureaucratic obstacles. That might mean publicizing. That might mean identifying barriers and getting them away. That might mean calling the meeting and putting everybody in the room together and facilitating those ideas. So my job is to meet with the people who've been doing the work and also to support student-led movements. So if we're talking about students feeling welcome, my job is to meet with them and ask them for what they want, ask them for what they need, and then give it to them. I feel like it's really like ask people for what they need and then give it to them. To create those kind of spaces. So I know my position is limited, right? Because I'm an administrator. So I do have to work with the power at the university.
Yeah.
To help them recognize where their power is and to
we know how that can be sometimes.
Yeah, it could be right. And also with, faculty are so important for faculty to feel loved and to feel cared for and to feel affirmed and supported because they are the frontline workers. They are the ones day in and day out that really can shape a student's success. And the last thing I'll say, I don't know how I'm at the beginning of this. I believe in creating something called Brookdale 360, where incoming freshmen are in cohorts. And you might be in a cohort of 6 or 7 people, right? And that might be an intergen cohort. So it might be some freshmen, maybe there's a couple sophomores because we're a 2-year school, and maybe you have a mentor, and that mentor is either someone who already works at Brookdale, or it might be somebody else. The point is you have a pod and you have a cohort, and you're working with each other throughout the year, throughout the semester, throughout the year. How can I create and facilitate these working groups for students to feel tethered? Even one good relationship in any program will help define the success of that program for that student. If you don't feel like you're coming up with someone, or if you're not looking forward to linking up with someone, or you can't get in on that group chat, if you're just going to school like on your own, it's not going to work. Yeah. You're going to feel alone. You're going to feel like you're in an island. You're not going to feel like you're a part of something. You're not going to have anyone to ask for help. And you just want low stakes conversation. That is what creates bonds. Doesn't have to be deep. Doesn't have to be like, what do you believe? No, it has to do with, hey, let's watch this game. Let's get together at the TV room and play some
for a Carvel.
That's it. Or, hey, how you doing? Did you watch this episode of whatever? Low stakes conversation is what bonds and binds people to have a little bit of relief and ease. I don't know how I'm at the beginning of it. A lot of people are interested. Peer-to-peer growth has proven to be successful. And that's one of the structural methods that I hope to bring students to help impact their time with us.
That's awesome. That really is awesome. Especially, being able to make that connection, because for some of us at the 4-year schools, like even Seton Hall was a commuter school where we went, but we had the speech team, or I had a fraternity too, some folks had sororities. There were those groups, those different social aspects that you could still get involved with, that created that bond that helped you as a support system to get through. So I think that's great. Now you go to a community college, you've done a lot of work on the university level. So tell me about the difference that you're seeing between the university and the community colleges in terms of the diversity and the obstacles that the different schools have in regards to creating more of that equality.
So university and community colleges.
Yeah.
I have to be really honest, right? Radical transparency. This is my first time working for a community college, and I've not had a tremendous amount of experience with community colleges before. And I regret that. Like, they are a secret. And I feel like keeping them a secret is a little bit of a criminal act. I know this is hard language, but I know when I was in school, like, I'm being really real about that. Yeah. Guidance counselors have to do the work for amplifying the commitment community colleges have and have historically made to being accessible. fair, robust, rigorous education for a tremendously affordable price. This is hard. I had no one give me a community college as an affordable option, as a journey toward a four-year education to help subsidize and alleviate that burden that comes with a four-year education.
Yep.
Instead, I know very well the competitiveness of the brands. I know very well the high stakes competition, the fight, the studying for the SAT, the staying up all night, the worry about getting into the school, the applying for it, the who got accepted for what, the guidance counselor's office with appendants, lines on the wall with schools with tuition is $50,000 a year. So this is hard. And this is hard to hear, but it is important that parents who are terrified for their children, you know, the pandemic has showed us the myth of meritocracy. You know, it is not oftentimes how hard you work. It is not. There are folk, you know, who don't speak the language. How do you access college? The FAFSA, for example, folk who may be working class, blue collar folk who are, generationally passing the family, you know, that maybe college might be a new conversation, and you know, you don't know what you have access to. You know, four-year, you know, this is hard. You know, there are a lot of four-year colleges that raise their tuition during the pandemic. And that is something that we're going to have to talk about. No one teaches you the debt that you assume to attend university or these robust brand names. And no one talks about the interest rates.
Yep.
No one talks about that.
Nope.
No one tells you that student loans are never forgiven. Even if you claim bankruptcy, like no one tells you that your student loans.
Why are they going to tell you that? They're big business. They're big corporation. They tell you that to go out of business.
Thank you. And thank you. That is where I'm right. There are four-year colleges that make their profit off of the debilitating debt.
Oh, absolutely.
Their students.
Everybody gave for-profit colleges a bad name back when your University of Phoenix and your Ashfords and all them, when they all came out, everybody went, oh, those are the bad schools. Those are the schools that nobody should be a part of. They're taking all your money. It's the same thing as what the state schools and every other school's been doing out there for years. Only difference is they classified themselves as a business. That's the difference.
That's the difference. And
but it's the same thing. And I mean, you really want to dig into it. And then you could start talking about athletics and how the athletic departments are really hoarding money in regards to the schools and raking it all in. And then they're still jacking tuition up. Oh, it's a, you can go on and on. That's a never ending pothole.
And I honor education, and I honor like these tremendous schools and their tremendous effort. I absolutely get it. But the thing about it is, if you go on every job call, it will say bachelor's degree required. So what happens is like necessitated debt for forward movement is required. You have to go into this debt to go to school to be able to get a job. So a lot of what I'm learning about community colleges is that your first, like part of what I do is manage something called the Community College Opportunity Grants, which provides absolutely tuition-free, a last dollar program for students who qualify. Community college is already tremendously affordable every place that you go. The faculty is tremendous. They are absolutely dedicated practitioners and theorists in their field, already affordable. But in New Jersey, and there may be other versions of this tuition-free grant program in other states, being able to earn your first 2 years of college absolutely free, and your community college will help you If you are interested after your associate's degree, after those 2 years, to transfer to your 4-year college, to go on to your career and transfer pathways, there are offices that are built for that on campus that can help you. It is a way to help engineer your higher education in a way that is sustaining. It alleviates a tremendous amount of worry. Debt and worrying about money provides a toxic stress. And also a community college serves what we, whatever might be called a non-traditional student. So people, like, look at what happened during the pandemic. People are losing their jobs. We might have to pivot. We might have to learn a new trade or learn a new skill, and community college can provide that for an older student, people with families. They do a lot of work with international students and also with veterans. So it's really great. I feel like community college is class solidarity. I feel like their whole existence follows the justice and access framework.
Class solidarity.
Class solidarity, absolutely.
It's more of a melting pot, you'd say, than your 4 years, because 4 years, most of the time, they're obviously a lot more expensive. You're working with a different demographic of folks that can afford to go there or can go there. You're either an athlete, you get a scholarship, or you got the money to pay for it, as opposed to $65 a credit hour and everybody can basically go. Yeah, it's kind of like living in New York City versus living in Olathe, Kansas.
Right, but it's, yes, look at it. Not, there's a difference between what something costs and what something is worth.
Absolutely.
So just because something costs a lot doesn't mean that it's worth there are other free. A lot of people are, one of the taglines that I use to talk about my community college program is feel the freedom of free. A lot of people are always suspicious of free things, like something
they are
wrong with it. And that is how we've been trained to spend our money. We've not been taught how to save it or how to manage it, just how to spend it, and maybe spend it differently.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is awesome. This is awesome. I mean, and we could keep going for hours on this stuff. I do want to ask you one more thing real fast, though, in regards to, because this is something that just, having been in higher education myself since, it's been since 2007, and having worked on both the administrative side and then selling to the schools and what have you, I've noticed so many different trends occurring. And one of the things that you mentioned was, everybody, you've got to have a bachelor's degree in order to be looked at on a resume for a job nowadays. And I remember when that used to be, well, no, you got to have an associate's degree. And then it became, well, now you got to have a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
And even before that, it was just, you got to have a high school degree.
High school,
right?
yes.
If you graduate from high school, then, hey, you've got a good opportunity here. Then it became, well, you got to have an associate. You got to go through a little bit. Then you got to have a bachelor's. Before you know it's going to be, got to have a master's. But at some point, there has to become the point of diminishing return, right? Where all of a sudden that bachelor's, that master's, that associate, it really means nothing. And in my mind, and give me your thoughts on this, especially on the community college level, I have a very strong feeling that we're going to find that certification programs and stackable certifications are going to be the wave of the future. And this is where the community colleges really come into play, because they're not you still have your 4-year programs out there. A lot of them are going to go to the wayside, as we're already seeing. A lot of them are closing down. But the community colleges, they can start banding together, which some already have, even in the Denver area. Some have already started doing this. They band together with local trade schools. And then they start offering those certification programs. And then you've got a student who's directly out of high school or still in high school, able to take those specialized courses, therefore able to get exactly what they want and get into the job line faster. Because nowadays, everybody operates based on, the iPhone. It's instant gratification. If I want something, if I want to do something, I want to learn about it, I'm going to look it up and find it now. I don't have time for a 2-year or 4-year degree. I want a 6-week, 8-week, 6-month program that's going to give me exactly what I need to know in order to be picked up to do the job that I want. I don't know. What are your thoughts on where that could go with community colleges?
Yeah, I feel like I know the community college where I'm at, and I'm still learning about all the resources that they're able to offer. We do a lot of that work.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of certifications. I feel like there is a justice there because people have families, people don't have time, people are going to school while they're trying to learn the new thing at the same time. Also, we have to reinvent what it means to have a robust student, right? You can be, usually it was like 4 years, right? And these are like the classes you have to take.
Mm-hmm.
All those core classes, you know what, we took them, right? Like
Oh,
these are the
gotcha.
core classes that everybody has to take, even if it had nothing to do with your major. So we're sitting in them because people thought like that's what's required to create a global student, a forward thinking person, a full citizen, you know, like your robust self.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have so much access, especially online. Zoom, like look at what Zoom is doing now. There are so many ways to get that enrichment, to get that learning, to get access to those points, that we really don't have to mandate that for a 4-year degree. And we really don't have to take up that time or that money, right? So certifications are the way. It's accessible, it's pliable, and also it's eventful. And what I mean by that is things are getting created all the time. Like like I'm thinking about STEM right now. There are so many job openings in STEM.
Yep.
For 1 year, take data science classes, and then you can jump to a 6-figure salary. People need you. And you
Absolutely.
could do that data science certification online at
You don't
night.
even have to leave your home.
You
You
have a
do it at
family.
night.
Right? Like you're able to do that. So I think
Do it on
that
your lunch break at your full-time job you don't like, like.
right, like it's, why not? Like I feel like with all of it is, what can we do, and then why don't we do it? So
It's
I'm
so
looking
true.
forward, and it only helps.
It's so true. It's so true. All right. Well, I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate, you getting on the horn with me today and going through this, especially for our very
Hey,
first This Bald Guy
yeah,
podcast.
yes,
So, yeah, this has been awesome. We will definitely continue to keep in touch on this. And I do want to do a follow-up with you as you keep getting further into it and you continue
right
to
on.
learn more about your role and where it's going. I want to catch back up to you in about 6 months and do this
Got it.
again. Pick your brain on what it is that you're learning, because I guarantee you your perspective on this will have changed somewhat in
Yeah,
some
man.
way.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It
For sure.
will. It
For sure.
definitely will. So
Yeah,
before
man.
we go, any parting thoughts from you that we can leave everybody with?
I just want to thank everyone, just to stay grounded. I wish everybody ease. I wish everyone support. I wish everyone rest. And I wish everyone pace. Like we've had such a tremendous, hard year. Things are starting to open up, but I would pause on running back and rushing back and getting on the grind and getting our hustle on. Like all that language that really isn't helpful. So just I wish everyone slowness and easiness, and I wish everyone to have everything that they need to take care of themselves and each other. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody. Angela Cariotis, long time, good, very close friend of mine. Make sure that you catch her again. You can find her available on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all your major social media outlets. Make sure you go out, follow up with her, and watch one of her videos. You'll be able to find it on social media as well. And until then, in 6 months, we will see you back. And for you all, we'll see you on our next upcoming podcast with This Bald Guy. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you all very soon. Be safe, be blessed. Deuces.